The morning sun cast long shadows across Kepler Station as transport ships arrived from across the galaxy. Sergeant Crixtall stood in the docking bay watching new cadets step off their vessels, his four arms crossed over his massive chest while his crystal skin caught the artificial light. He had seen thousands of recruits over his 20 years as an instructor at the Galactic Military Academy. Most were predictable. The tall blue Zolonians with their sharp minds, the strong Arcturi with their tactical skills, the quick Vorthak like himself who could move faster than most eyes could follow. But today, something was different. Among the usual mix of alien species walked a creature that made Crixtall pause. The being was small compared to the others. It had only 2 arms and 2 legs. Its skin looked soft and pale. According to the datapad in Crixtall's upper right hand, this was a human named Jake Martinez from a planet called Earth. Crixtall had heard whispers about humans in the Academy halls. They were new to the galaxy. Their planet had only recently been discovered by the Galactic Council. Most instructors thought humans were too primitive for serious military training. Their technology was basic. Their bodies seemed weak. They had no natural weapons like claws or acid spit. They could not read minds or see in the dark like other species. Jake Martinez walked toward the group of waiting instructors. He moved, with a strange confidence that seemed odd for such a small creature. His dark hair was cut short, and his brown eyes looked around the station with clear interest. He carried a simple bag over one shoulder and wore the standard recruit uniform. That looked too big for his frame. "You must be the human," Crixtall said through his translator device. His voice came out as a low rumble that made other cadets step back. "I am Sergeant Crixtall. I will be your advanced combat instructor." Jake looked up at the towering alien without showing fear. "Yes, sir." Jake Martinez reporting for duty. He gave a crisp salute that seemed practiced. Other cadets gathered around to see the strange new recruit. Zorex Prime, a Zolonian with blue skin and 3 eyes, whispered to his friend. "Look how small it is. How can something like that survive? Military training?" Another cadet, a female Arcturi named Vera 6, shook her head. "Humans are from a Class 3 planet. They barely have space travel. Why did the Council even accept them into the Academy?" Crixtall heard their comments, but said nothing. He had his own doubts about the human. Earth was indeed a primitive world by galactic standards. Humans had no enhanced abilities. They could not breathe different atmospheres like Zolonians. They could not lift heavy objects like Arcturi. They had short lifespans and fragile bodies. "Tell me, human," Crixtall said. "What makes you think you can handle advanced military training? Your species has no combat experience beyond your own planet." Jake thought for a moment before answering. "Sergeant, humans have been fighting for survival since we first walked upright. We may not have fancy technology or special powers, but we learn fast and we do not give up easily." This made Zorex Prime laugh. "Fighting on one primitive planet is not the same as galactic warfare, human. We study tactics that span multiple star systems. We use weapons that can destroy moons. We fight enemies that can phase through solid matter or control gravity itself." "I understand that," Jake replied calmly, "but every species here started somewhere. I am ready to learn whatever you can teach me." Crixtall studied the human carefully. There was something in Jake's voice that reminded him of veteran soldiers he had known, a quiet determination that came from facing real danger. Most new cadets showed either fear or arrogance when they first arrived. This human showed neither. He seemed ready for whatever would come next. "Very well," Crixtall said finally. "Tomorrow we begin advanced tactical training. I warn you now, human, that this academy breaks soldiers who have trained their entire lives for war. Species with natural advantages that you lack have failed here. If you cannot keep up, you will be sent back to your primitive world in shame." Jake nodded seriously. "I understand, Sergeant. I will do my best." Your best may not be enough, Vera 6 said coldly. Humans are not built for this kind of challenge. But as the group moved toward the academy buildings, Crixtal found himself watching the human more closely. There was something about Jake Martinez that did not fit with what he knew about the species. The way he moved suggested hidden strength. The way he observed everything around him showed sharp intelligence. Most interesting of all, he showed no fear despite being surrounded by creatures that could easily kill him. Perhaps tomorrow's training would reveal what kind of soldier this human could become. Crixtal had a feeling it would be a very interesting day. The next morning brought Jake to the Academy's most feared training facility. The Advanced Combat Center stretched across 3 levels of Kepler Station. Walls made of reinforced metal held holographic projectors that could create any battlefield imaginable. The air smelled of ozone and recycled atmosphere. Sergeant Crixtal led the group of 12 cadets through sliding doors into the main chamber. His crystal skin reflected the blue lights that lined the walls. Behind him walked the most elite students from across the galaxy. They had already completed months of basic training. Each one came from a species known for military skill. Today, you will see the Omega Maze, Crixtal announced as they entered a vast circular room. The walls rose 50 feet above them and disappeared into shadows. This is the Academy's ultimate test of combat ability. Jake looked around with interest. The room seemed empty except for metal pillars that stood like silent guardians. But he could sense hidden technology waiting to spring to life. His human instincts told him this place was dangerous. Zorex Prime moved closer to his fellow cadets. His 3 eyes focused on different parts of the room at once. I have heard stories about this place, he whispered. They say it has broken the minds of warriors from 100 worlds. Vera 6 nodded grimly. Her Arcturi training had prepared her for many challenges, but even she felt nervous here. The current record holder is Veltar 9 from my homeworld. It took him 3 full weeks to complete the maze. Most cadets never finish it at all. Crixtal activated a control panel with 2 of his 4 hands. The room transformed around them. Holographic walls rose from the floor, creating a complex maze that stretched in all directions. Gravity fields shimmered in the air. Energy barriers blocked certain passages. Mock enemies appeared and disappeared like ghosts. The Omega Maze tests everything a soldier needs, Crixtal explained. Navigation through unknown territory, problem-solving under pressure, combat reflexes against multiple enemies, physical endurance for extended missions. Most important of all, tactical thinking when plans fall apart. The maze shifted and changed as they watched. Corridors moved like living things. Stairs appeared and vanished. Platforms floated through the air following invisible paths. Jake realized this was not just a test of skill, but of adaptability. No 2 attempts would be exactly the same. Standard Academy protocol requires 8 weeks of preparation before attempting the Omega Maze, Crixtal continued. Students must learn to use advanced equipment. They study tactical theory from the greatest military minds in the galaxy. They memorize maze patterns and combat scenarios. They build their endurance through months of physical training. A Vorthak. Cadet named Zekra raised one of his 4 arms. Sergeant, when will we begin our preparation? You advanced cadets may attempt the maze after 2 weeks of study, Crixtal replied. That is already faster than normal because of your previous training. Jake raised his hand. The gesture looked strange among aliens who communicated in different ways. Sergeant, may I ask what kind of equipment we will use? Crixtal's crystal features shifted in what might have been surprise. Standard combat gear, human. Energy weapons that can punch through military armor. Tactical scanners that show enemy positions through solid walls. Personal shields that can stop most attacks. Gravity boots for moving on any surface. Why do you ask? I would like to try the maze now. The training chamber fell completely silent. Even the humming of the holographic projectors seemed to pause. Every alien eye turned toward the small human who had just spoken impossible words. Vera 6 was the first to react. Human, did you understand what the sergeant just said? This maze defeats soldiers with decades of experience. Species with enhanced reflexes and multiple sensory organs fail here regularly. I heard him, Jake said quietly. But I would still like to attempt it. Zorax Prime's 3 eyes blinked in sequence, showing his confusion. Cadet Martinez, you have been at this academy for 1 day. You have never used galactic military equipment. You do not know our tactical systems. This is not bravery, this is suicide. Crixtal studied the human with growing amazement. In 20 years of teaching, he had never encountered such complete ignorance of military reality. Did this creature truly not understand how outmatched he was? The Omega Maze had broken cadets who could lift 10 times their body weight. It had confused minds that could process information faster than computers. It had exhausted beings who could run for days without rest. Human Martinez, Crixtal said slowly. Perhaps you do not understand the scope of this challenge. The maze is designed to push experienced soldiers beyond their limits. It adapts to counter your tactics. It learns from your mistakes and uses them against you. Even our best students require extensive preparation before they dare to enter. I understand. Sergeant, Jake replied with the same calm voice. But humans learn best by doing, not by studying. If I fail, at least I will know what I need to work on. The other cadets began talking among themselves in their various languages. The Zolonians clicked their tongues in what passed for laughter, among their kind. The Arcturi shook their heads in disbelief. Even species known for their courage thought the human had lost his mind. Crixtal found himself torn between duty and curiosity. His job was to protect cadets from unnecessary harm. Sending an unprepared recruit into the Omega Maze was against every regulation in the Academy handbook, but something about the human's quiet confidence made him pause. Very well, Crixtal said finally. If you insist on learning the hard way, I will not stop you. But understand this, human. You will have exactly 1 hour to complete what takes our best students weeks to master. You will use standard equipment with no modifications for your species' limitations. When you fail, you will be sent back to your planet with a full report of your inadequacy. Jake nodded seriously. I understand the terms, Sergeant. Then step forward and receive your equipment. Let us see what kind of soldier Earth has sent us. Jake stepped forward to receive his equipment as the other cadets formed a circle around the maze entrance. Crixtal handed him an energy rifle designed for beings twice his size. The weapon felt heavy in his human hands, but Jake adjusted his grip until it felt manageable. Next came a tactical scanner that attached to his left arm. The device looked like advanced technology to Jake, but to everyone else it was basic military gear. The scanner will show enemy positions and environmental hazards, Crixtal explained. The rifle has 3 settings: low power for training targets, medium power for armored enemies, high power for emergency situations only. Do not use high power unless your life depends on it. Jake nodded as he received the rest of his gear. Personal shield generator that would protect him from most attacks. Gravity boots that would let him walk on walls and ceilings. Communication. Device to call for help if needed. Standard military uniform with basic life support systems. The maze changes every few minutes, Crixtal continued. What you see now will not be the same when you enter. Trust your scanner, but do not rely on it completely. The maze can create false readings to confuse you. Vera 6 stepped closer. Human, it is not too late to change your mind. There is no shame in waiting until you have proper training. Pride has killed more soldiers than enemy fire. Thank you for the concern, Jake replied as he checked his equipment one final time. But I need to see what I am capable of before I know what I need to learn. Zorax Prime shook his blue head sadly. We will watch your progress on the screens. When you surrender, just activate your communication device, and we will extract you from wherever you are trapped. The observation screens flickered to life around the room. They would show Jake's every move from multiple angles. Advanced sensors would track his vital signs and stress levels. If he was about to die, the safety systems would pull him out automatically. Crick's tail moved to the control panel. The timer starts the moment you enter the maze. You have exactly 1 hour. Most cadets do not survive the first 10 minutes without calling for rescue. Jake walked to the maze entrance. The holographic walls looked solid, but he could see energy patterns shifting within them. The passage ahead curved out of sight after about 20 feet. Strange sounds echoed from the depths. Mechanical noises mixed with alien roars and weapon. Fire! Any final questions, human? Crystal asked. Just one, Jake said. Are there any rules about how I complete the objectives? Crystal's crystal features showed confusion. The maze will present challenges. You overcome them or you fail. There are no rules except survival. Good, Jake said quietly. Then I will. See you in 1 hour. He stepped through the entrance and disappeared into the shifting corridors. The timer began counting down immediately. Around the observation room, cadets and instructors gathered to watch what they expected to be a very short and humiliating failure. The first screen showed Jake moving carefully down the initial corridor. He held his rifle ready but did not seem nervous. Instead, he appeared to be studying everything around him with intense focus. The walls, the ceiling, the floor, even the air itself. Look at how slowly he moves, Vera 6 observed. He will never complete the maze at that pace. But Crystal was watching something else. The human was not just moving slowly, he was learning. Every step taught him something new about how the maze worked. When a wall shifted position, Jake noticed which way the energy patterns flowed. When gravity changed direction, he felt the change coming before his equipment registered it. After 5 minutes, Jake reached his first real challenge. The corridor split into 3 passages. Each one looked identical, but the scanner showed different danger levels for each path. Most cadets would spend long minutes studying the scanner data and maze schematics before choosing. Jake glanced at his scanner, then ignored it completely. He chose the middle passage without hesitation. Interesting, Crixtel murmured. The scanner indicated that passage had the highest danger rating. Perhaps he cannot read the scanner properly, Zorex Prime suggested. Human technology is very primitive. He may not understand our equipment. But as they watched, Jake moved through the dangerous passage with surprising skill. When energy beams shot from the walls, he seemed to know where they would fire before they activated. When the floor tried to open beneath his feet, he was already jumping to safety. When mechanical enemies emerged from hidden panels, he was ready for them. How is he predicting the attacks? Vera 6 asked with growing concern. The maze is supposed to be unpredictable. Crixtal was beginning to wonder the same thing. The human was not using advanced tactics or superior technology. He was not stronger or faster than other species. But somehow he was reading the maze in ways that should have been impossible. 10 minutes into the test, Jake reached the first major obstacle, a chamber filled with shifting gravity fields and floating platforms. Most cadets needed special training just to move through this section without losing their balance. Many became sick from the constant changes in orientation. Jake paused at the entrance for exactly 30 seconds. He watched the gravity patterns cycle through their changes. Then he launched himself into the chamber with complete confidence. What happened next made every observer fall silent. Jake moved through the shifting gravity like he was dancing. When up became down, he was already positioned for the change. When gravity pulled sideways, he used the force to reach the next platform. He turned the maze's own defenses into tools for faster movement. That should not be possible, Vera 6 whispered. He has no training in zero-gravity combat. How does he know how to do that? Crixtal was asking himself the same question. But as he watched the small human navigate impossible challenges with growing skill, he began to suspect something remarkable. This was not luck or beginner's fortune. This was something entirely different. Something that might change everything they thought they knew about humans. 20 minutes into the test, Jake had reached sections of the Omega Maze that most cadets never saw. The observation screens showed him entering the combat garden, a holographic jungle filled with predatory creatures and hidden traps. This section was designed to test a soldier's ability to fight while moving through hostile territory. The combat garden has a 90% failure rate, Crickstowl announced to the watching cadets. Most students become overwhelmed by the multiple threats and call for extraction within minutes. Zorex Prime studied the screens with his 3 eyes focused on different angles. Look at all those enemy signatures. There must be 50 hostile targets in that section. How can one soldier handle so many enemies alone? As they watched, mechanical predators began emerging from the holographic trees. They moved like real animals but shot energy beams from their eyes. Flying creatures dove from above, while ground-based hunters stalked through the underbrush. The maze's artificial intelligence was throwing everything it had at the lone human. Jake's response defied every tactical manual in the Academy library. Instead of finding cover and engaging enemies one at a time like his training should have taught him, he did something completely unexpected. He started moving constantly, never staying in one place for more than a few seconds. "What is he doing?" Vera 6 asked in confusion. "Constant movement makes you an easy target. Every species knows you should find defensive positions and engage from cover." But Jake was not just moving randomly. He was using the jungle environment in ways that seemed impossible. When a mechanical lion charged at him, Jake swung from a vine to avoid its attack and landed on its back. Instead of trying to destroy it, he rode the creature toward a group of flying enemies and used their own weapons against each other. "He is turning the enemies against themselves," Crickstowl observed with growing amazement. The maze is designed to adapt to standard tactics, but there are no standard tactics for what he is doing. The screens showed Jake moving through the jungle like a force of nature. When multiple enemies surrounded him, he found ways to escape that should not have worked. He used falling trees to crush ground targets. He redirected energy beams to hit flying creatures. He even managed to confuse the artificial intelligence by moving in patterns it could not predict. "Look at his vital signs," a Vorthak instructor said while checking the medical monitors. "His heart rate is elevated but stable. His stress hormones are within normal ranges. He is not panicking despite being outnumbered 50 to 1. 25. Minutes in, Jake reached the puzzle chambers. These rooms contained complex mechanical and mathematical challenges that typically required teams of specialists to solve. The problems were designed to test pure intelligence rather than combat ability. The first chamber contained a massive mechanical device with hundreds of moving parts. Students were supposed to study the machine for hours before attempting to understand its function. Most cadets brought detailed notes and calculation tools to help them work through the solution. Jake walked into the chamber and stared at the machine for about 30 seconds. Then he started pressing buttons and turning dials in what looked like a random pattern. The other cadets watching the screens expected alarms to sound and safety systems to activate. Instead, the machine began working perfectly. "How did he solve that so quickly?" Zorex Prime demanded. "That puzzle requires advanced mathematics and engineering knowledge. Humans barely have spaceflight technology." Crickstowl was asking himself the same question, but he was beginning to see a pattern in the human's behavior. Jake was not using logic and calculation like other species. He was using something else entirely. Something that allowed him to understand complex systems by looking at them from angles no one else considered. The second puzzle chamber contained a holographic maze within the maze. Students had to navigate a three-dimensional path through shifting obstacles while solving mathematical equations in their heads. Most species needed computer assistance to track all the variables. Jake entered the chamber and immediately began moving through the holographic obstacles without any visible plan. But somehow every step he took was perfect. Every equation he solved was correct. He moved through the chamber like he could see the solution from the beginning. "He is not calculating anything," Vera 6 said with obvious concern. "He is just moving and somehow getting the right answers. That should be impossible." 30 minutes into the test, Jake reached the psychological warfare section. This area was designed to break enemy morale using fear, confusion, and sensory overload. Most students required extensive mental conditioning before they could even enter these chambers without losing their sanity. The first room hit visitors with strobing lights, deafening sounds, and holographic images designed to trigger basic fear responses. Species from across the galaxy had specific phobias programmed into the system. It knew exactly how to terrify almost every kind of mind. Jake walked into the chamber and paused for about 5 seconds. The lights flashed around him and horrible sounds filled the air. Terrifying images appeared and disappeared faster than normal eyes could track. Any other cadet would have been overwhelmed instantly. But Jake simply closed his eyes and started walking forward. He moved through the chaos like it was not there at all. "The psychological attacks are not affecting him," a monitoring technician reported. "His brain patterns show awareness of the stimuli, but no fear response whatsoever." "How is that possible?" Vera 6 whispered. "Those programs are based on universal fear patterns found in all known species." Crystal was beginning to understand something remarkable about humans. This was not just one exceptional individual. This was evidence of something unique about the entire species. They had evolved on a world so dangerous that normal fear responses had been replaced by something else entirely, something that might make them the most dangerous soldiers in the galaxy. With 40 minutes elapsed, Jake had progressed deeper into the Omega Maze than any cadet in Academy history. The screens showed him entering the Command Center simulation, an area reserved for the most advanced students. This section tested leadership abilities by forcing a single person to coordinate multiple battle scenarios simultaneously. "This is impossible," Vera 6 said while staring at the screens. "The Command Center requires candidates to manage at least 6 different combat situations at once. Most species cannot process that much information without computer assistance." The simulation activated around Jake, creating holographic battlefields in every direction. He stood in the center of a sphere showing space battles, ground conflicts, and diplomatic negotiations all happening at the same time. Normally, teams of specialists would handle each situation while a commander coordinated their efforts. Jake was completely alone. The Academy instructors watched in stunned silence as the human began managing all 6 scenarios simultaneously. When the space battle required tactical adjustments, he made them instantly. When ground forces needed new orders, he provided them without hesitation. When diplomatic talks started failing, he found solutions that kept negotiations moving forward. "How is he tracking all of this?" Zorex Prime asked, with 3 eyes darting between different screens. "My species has enhanced multitasking abilities, and even I cannot follow everything happening in that simulation." Crixtal was studying Jake's vital signs on the medical monitors. Something incredible was happening to the human's brain activity. Instead of showing stress and overload like every other species would, Jake's patterns indicated a state of focused calm that should have been impossible. He is not managing 6 separate situations, Crixtal realized suddenly. He is seeing them as parts of one larger problem. Look at his solutions. Every decision supports the others. He is thinking like the scenarios are connected. This was the key insight that changed everything. Other species approached complex problems by breaking them into smaller pieces and solving each one individually. But humans seemed capable of seeing entire systems at once and understanding how every part affected everything else. 45 minutes into the test, Jake reached the final section of the Omega Maze. The ultimate challenge was designed to have No correct solution. It presented cadets with a scenario where defeat was inevitable and taught them to accept failure with dignity. The goal was not to win, but to recognize when winning was impossible. The simulation showed Jake commanding a small military outpost under attack by overwhelming enemy forces. His weapons were failing. His shields were down. Enemy reinforcements were arriving every few minutes. According to every tactical analysis program in the Academy database, the situation was hopeless. Most cadets would study the scenario for several minutes before realizing defeat was certain. They would then execute an honorable withdrawal to save as many lives as possible. This was considered the correct response that showed mature military judgment. Jake looked at the hopeless situation for exactly 60 seconds. Then he did something that sent shockwaves through the Academy's computer systems. He started changing the fundamental rules of the engagement. Using a combination of environmental manipulation that existed in no tactical manual, Jake began turning the enemy's advantages against them. He used their overwhelming numbers to create traffic problems in their own formations. He redirected their superior firepower to destroy their own reinforcements. He even managed to turn their advanced technology into weaknesses by overloading their systems with feedback loops. "What is he doing?" Vera 6 demanded while watching displays flash with warnings and error messages. "The simulation is not responding normally. Some of these tactical approaches are not even programmed into the system." The maze's artificial intelligence was encountering something it had never faced before. It had been designed to adapt to any known tactical approach from hundreds of different species. But Jake was using methods that existed in no database. He was improvising solutions in real time that should have been impossible. "The AI is confused," a technician reported. "It keeps trying to counter his tactics but cannot find appropriate responses. Some of his approaches are so unusual that the system does not recognize them as valid military strategies." Crystal watched the screens with growing amazement and concern. This was no longer just about one exceptional cadet. This was evidence that humans represented something entirely new in galactic military thinking. They did not just follow rules better than other species. They changed the rules themselves. 55 minutes into the test, Jake had not only survived the ultimate challenge but had actually achieved victory in a scenario designed to be unwinnable. The simulation showed enemy forces retreating in disorder, while his small outpost remained functional and ready for continued operations. The observation room fell completely silent, except for the humming of electronic equipment. Every alien present was staring at the screens with expressions, ranging from amazement to terror. They had just witnessed something that challenged their most basic understanding of military science. "Cadets," Crixtal said slowly, "you have just seen the future of galactic warfare, and I am not sure whether that should excite us or frighten us." With 3 minutes remaining on the timer, Jake emerged from the maze's exit portal. He looked tired but not exhausted. His equipment was still functional. His vital signs showed elevated stress, but nothing approaching the breaking point that other species would have reached. He had completed the Omega Maze in 57 minutes, something that should have taken weeks of preparation and multiple attempts by even the most elite soldiers in the galaxy. As Jake walked toward the group of stunned observers, Crixtal realized that everything they thought they knew about human capabilities was completely wrong. The question now was what to do with this knowledge and whether the galaxy was ready for what humans might become as soldiers. Jake Martinez stood before the assembled group of alien cadets and instructors, breathing heavily but still standing straight. His human features showed exhaustion, but also quiet satisfaction. He had completed something that everyone said was impossible, and he had done it in less than an hour. Sergeant Crixtal approached him slowly, his forearms hanging at his sides and his crystal skin reflecting the maze's fading holographic lights. In 20 years of military instruction, he had never encountered anything that challenged his understanding of warfare so completely. "Cadet Martinez," Crixtal said in a voice that carried across the entire training chamber, You have just accomplished something that defies every principle of military science taught at this academy. The other cadets gathered around them in a tight circle. Zorex Prime's 3 eyes blinked in sequence as he tried to process what he had witnessed. Vera 6 stood with her mouth open, something that was considered very rude behavior among her species, but which she could not control. "I do not understand how you solved the ultimate challenge," Vera 6 said finally. "That scenario was designed to be impossible." The computer confirmed that no winning strategy existed within known tactical parameters. Jake wiped sweat from his forehead with the back of his hand. Maybe the problem was thinking inside known parameters. On Earth, we learned that when normal solutions do not work, you have to try abnormal ones. "But some of your tactics violated basic principles of physics," Zorex Prime protested. "You used enemy weapons against themselves in ways that should not have been possible. You created tactical advantages from situations that offered none." "I used what was available," Jake replied simply. "Every system has weaknesses if you know how to look for them. Every enemy has blind spots if you move in ways they do not expect." Crixtal was beginning to understand something profound about human evolution. Other species had developed in specialized environments that rewarded specific survival strategies. Zolonians became master planners because their world required careful resource management. Arcturi became tactical experts because their home world demanded organized group combat against specific threats. But humans had evolved on a world that threw everything at them simultaneously. They faced predators that were faster, stronger, and more numerous than they were. They survived climate changes that would have destroyed other species. They developed technology while fighting constant wars against their own kind. "Tell me about Earth," Crixtal said suddenly. "What kind of world produces soldiers like you?" Jake thought for a moment before answering. "Earth is not an easy planet. We have hurricanes that can destroy entire cities, earthquakes that reshape continents, volcanoes that block out the sun for years. We have poisonous plants, predatory animals, and diseases that kill without warning." "That sounds terrible," Vera 6 said with obvious horror. "How did your species survive such conditions?" "We learned to adapt," Jake continued. "When one approach failed, we tried another. When that failed, we tried something completely different. We learned to use tools, to work together, to think in ways our enemies could not predict. We became generalists because specialists died too easily." The implications hit Crixtal like a physical blow. Humans were not just another military species joining the galactic community. They were evolution's answer to the ultimate survival challenge. They had been forged by a world that demanded constant adaptation and creative problem-solving. "This changes everything," Crixtal said quietly, but every alien in the room heard him clearly. "We have been training soldiers to follow established tactical doctrine, but humans represent something entirely different. They are military evolution in action." Word of Jake's achievement spread through Kepler Station within hours. By evening, military strategists from a dozen species were requesting permission to study alongside the human cadets. Academy instructors who had dismissed humans as primitive were suddenly asking for transfers to Earth observation duty. Admiral Zentar of the Galactic Fleet Command arrived the next morning with a full escort of military analysts. The ancient Vorthak leader had commanded fleets for over a century and had never shown interest in individual cadet performance before. "Show me the recordings," Zentar demanded as soon as he entered the training facility. For 3 hours, he watched Jake's progress through the Omega Maze while military experts provided analysis of each section. "Fascinating," the Admiral said finally. "This human solved problems we did not even know existed. He found weaknesses in systems we considered perfect. Most importantly, he did it all by thinking in ways we never considered." Crixtal stood at attention before his superior officer. "Sir, what are your orders regarding the human training program?" Double it, Zentar replied immediately. Request as many human cadets as Earth can provide, but do not try to train them like other species. Let them develop their own methods, study what they do, and learn from it. Sir, some of our allies are concerned about humans developing advanced military capabilities, one of the Admiral's advisors said carefully. Species that have dominated galactic warfare for centuries are worried about being replaced. Zentar's ancient features shifted into what might have been a smile. Good. Fear will keep them sharp, and if humans can revolutionize our military effectiveness, then we welcome the revolution. Jake Martinez spent the rest of his time at the academy, teaching other cadets as much as learning from them. His human approach to problem-solving spread through the student body like a beneficial infection. Zolonian cadets learned to trust their instincts more. Arcturi students discovered the value of improvisation. Even Vorthak warriors found new ways to use their speed and strength. But the most important change happened in the Academy's teaching methods. Instructors stopped focusing only on established doctrine and began encouraging creative thinking. The Omega Maze was reprogrammed to reward innovation rather than just following proper procedures. 6 months later, when Jake graduated with the highest honors in Academy history, he received an assignment that surprised everyone. Instead of joining a regular military unit, he was placed in command of the first experimental human-alien tactical integration unit. His mission was simple, but revolutionary. Take the best soldiers from multiple species and teach them to think, like humans when faced with impossible situations. As Jake prepared to leave Kepler Station for his new assignment, Sergeant Crickstall approached him one final time. "Human," the instructor said, "you have changed how this academy understands warfare itself. That is no small accomplishment." "Thank you, Sergeant," Jake replied. "But I think we are just getting started. Wait until you see what humans can do when we really get going." Crickstall watched the young human board his transport ship and wondered what the galaxy would look like in a few years when thousands of human-trained soldiers were serving throughout the fleet. One thing was certain. Warfare would never be the same again, and perhaps that was exactly what the galaxy needed.